Hi, welcome into my studio again, and it really is something very different this time, a Russian church. The thing that attracted me to it was the golden tops, as you can see on those towers, the reflective light, that shine. I wanted to see if I could get that metallic look. I also like the clouds coming down and the bounce light in there as well. So lots of things going on. I could have made a much bigger drawing of this, but I didn't want to spend too much time, and even doing this much detail took about 4 hours. So let's see exactly how I did it. Okay, here's the reference image. Printed out the right size, and I've dragged some colours out as I usually do so I can select my pencils a little bit more easily. Here you can see my drawing. I've already transferred it down onto my light grey pastel mat paper. And that light grey, it's almost white. It's not quite white, but it is almost white. Now, I deliberately didn't use a mid-tone paper for this drawing. And the reason behind that is that there's lots of vibrant and light colours on this drawing. So as I've shown previously on a butterfly on a flower, the only time I use these really light papers is when I'm using or I'm doing a subject that's got lots of vibrant colours and is quite light as well. Now, as you can see, I'm starting off just putting a bit of an edge around of the blue. The reason I'm doing that is just basically because by putting that blue in, I find myself I'm going to be able to judge the golds on these domes much more easily. And obviously I'm not going to select just like a gold pencil for it. It's lots of different colors and tones that's going to sit together and create that gold reflective appearance. And this blue line is also going to define the edge more for me so I can see where I've got to actually draw. And I'm using this pencil specifically. I want to keep this tutorial, even though it's a fairly complicated subject, just with pencils. And also the other reason, even though I got a fairly moderate size of pastel sticks coming now as I'm collecting them, I haven't got a blue anywhere near this colour, and it's only in fact this Gioconda blue that was in my set that's really coming close to the sky colour that I seen in the reference photo. So I'm going to be using this a lot when I do the sky, and the pencil's really going to weigh down, but didn't really have much of a option if I wanted to get close to that blue colour. So I'm just going to carry on outlining in blue. Okay, so let's make a start on one of the domes. I like a challenge, so I thought I'd start on the biggest one, the most difficult one of all. I've got my glassine paper, you can see that on the right hand side, that's what I'm resting my hand on. And I've got my reference photo. I folded it a bit so you can see it nice and close by my drawing. So that's the actual reference photo, it's not an image that I've just pasted on the video. It's actually the piece of paper. I'm just beginning to block in the basic colour, and the basic colour is kind of this Naples yellow, I'd call it. Carbothello I'm using there. Now, I already decided before I started doing this, I'm not going to put in all of those tiny little marks that's making up all the triangles over all of it. I'm going to put in a few of those just in some strategic areas, just to give the impression that people will know it's kind of made up of tiles, but I'm not going to put in all of those marks because to do it justice, they really need to be exactly in line. I don't want to spend that much time on it. I would have to get out different protractors and things like that to do it, and it would then almost turn into a technical drawing, an architecture technical drawing. I don't want to do that. I just want to get the essence of it, and really, as I said at the beginning, to see if I can get the reflective, realistic appearance on these domes and some of that bounce light then on the walls as well. So the colours I'm going to be using a lot of is the Carbothello, like I say, that Naples yellow colour. That appears to be a 692. Very difficult sometimes to see these numbers on these pencils. The lighter green, that's a Gioconda. That appears to be 39, so it's 8820-39. And then you'll see me use a dark green. Now that's a Pitt pencil, and that's 1122-173. So that's a darker green. I don't like giving out those colours, colour formulas. As I said, I'm just really showing you the technique on this subject. It's much better if you then, you know, take that technique and do your own subject and apply that. So not really any point then giving the colours out, and the chances of you having the exact colours and the exact sets that I've got are quite slim anyway. And also, why would you really want to be copying like a paint by numbers? It's one thing doing the subject along with me or following my lead. It's another thing if you're then copying the colours exactly because I'm calling them out and telling you which pencil to actually pick up and where to apply it. Personally, I don't really see the point of doing that. So you can see I'm smudging in with my fingers, and that's doing two things. That's pushing the pastel down into the paper surface. That means we get more layers, and it's also blending those colours together. Now that pencil I'm using there, that's a Caran d'Ache 788.821. I'll be using that fairly frequently for the lighter highlights. This is just a white I'm using there. I'm putting that in fairly early just so I reserve the area that I want to be bright pure white. Down here, that's some of that darker green, and I want to get some of those square colours as well. You can see how I try the colour out. Piece of scrap pastel mat. So I'm testing the colours out. I can see straight away some, no, that you know, is just not going to work. And it's all a case of putting in what you've got. As I mentioned before on videos, you'll never match all the colours in your sets. There's no way, just impossible. But sometimes you need to put a dark down first and then put a light on top to actually lighten the colour a bit, or put the light underneath and the dark on top, either way, and then blend it. And you'll see me doing that now, and that's how I'll get closer to the colours. Now to get the effect of there being tiles here, I'm going to leave the top edges, you know, kind of triangular. And you see as I do this first one, you see I'm putting in the lighter green, then I can blend it and put the darker green. You just see how I do the first one, then you'll see it's exactly the same way then I do the others. They're just on a smaller scale, so you soon become familiar with the way that I'm tackling this subject. Not putting too much pastel down. Remember, you need enough so that it will blend. That's the beauty of pastels. And cover the paper underneath, but we don't want to be pushing really hard with the pencils or when you're using sticks and really saturating the paper. It's something you've got to learn by a bit of experience. You know, this is a really complicated subject. I like to show you things like this as well as some easier projects. But if you're trying things out like I did with this, I did a small dome on a scrap piece of paper just to see, or play with techniques to see what would work best. So you can see I rubbed quite hard there to blend and to push that colour into the paper using my little finger. I'm not holding any tools there or anything like that. It's just my finger. I'm rubbing along the surface and blending it and smoothing it all together. Okay, so I got just about enough of that down now. I'm going to start to put some of the darker green on top, and then I'll blend that to create that kind of smooth shading of green we can see to the middle part of this dome. So we're going quite lightly, and it's just darkening the colour down. So I think that's enough pastel on the surface, so once again use my little finger. Still the best tool I've found for blending. Can use a soft paper stump for that as well. You can see I'm already starting to get that three-dimensional appearance, and you can also see how that blue really helps now to show the true colours. If it was just this green going on to the white right next to it, it'd be much more difficult to judge. And remember as well, colours do show up a little bit different with the pastel compared to the printout, and I'm not too worried about getting it exactly identical anyway. So just playing there with kind of the idea, could I put in just a small amount of lighter tones to indicate the tiles where the light is catching it. So as I said, I'm just playing around with things myself as well. Every subject is a new learning experience. Whether you're really advanced or beginner, you know, we're all learning and trying to see what techniques we can use to create a similar effect that we're seeing. So I'm using that Caran d'Ache. You see, I'm using, you know, more of a cross hatch type of technique there. Needs to go a bit lighter here to get that dome appearance, that light effect. I'll be putting quite a few more layers on there to really perfect it as good as I can. Up here it goes much lighter, so I'm trying to put a bit of this light flesh Carbothello colour, seeing how that's going to look. Perhaps go a bit pinker. With my eyes I can see a bit of this pink colour, this warmer colour up the top, even though it's lighter, but that just seems too pink. So let's try a bit of grey instead. And I'm not pushing hard, not putting a big deposit of pastel down at all. Really, when I start to get those coppery tones down, that's will then make these lighter golden greens start to be a bit more punchy and hopefully look more metallic. Okay, quite happy with how that's turned out so far. As I said, very little detail really after the base shape. and colour at the moment. I can put the details on top. So I'm just going to start to work on these coppery areas and seeing exactly how that's going to affect the colours on the golden dome. So I'm drawing quite carefully. I'm going to do a lot of this freehand. It's very tempting to start to get things like protractors out and rulers out and do all that. And when I was in school many years ago, I did technical drawing, so I've got the urge to be doing that, but I want to keep this quite loose, and I'm going to, as I mentioned, do most of it just freehand, just trying my best, which will keep a bit of a more of a painterly, looser appearance to it, rather than trying to be absolutely technically correct. Now some of these tops of the tiles are quite dark, almost to the black in the middle, and because we will then have the wide range of tonal value from the white where the highlight is really catching that dome all the way to that darkest tile, which is pretty much black right in the center. As I mentioned, we will have a good range there, and I'll be able to judge everything from that and see the effect, see if it's going to work, which hopefully it is, otherwise I'm going to be scrapping it. But if it works, I'll have a lot more confidence in doing the other smaller domes. Using more of an orange colour. There's lots of colour changes here. Once again, got my scrap piece of paper. You can see how I've tried out lots of different pencils because the tips don't look like the colour that comes out of them, and that's across the range, doesn't matter what brand you're using. Nothing is really exact. So I'm going to put a base colour in first, I think, and then I'll start to layer the darks and the lights on top. So that seemed like a quicker way to do it. Put the base in. I know that I could get the nice blacks on there to lay on top, no problem. And that base is not too far away from the highlight colours, those more orange and yellow colours that we see on these tiles. So I know I can pretty much layer those on top as well, just because I don't have to go extremely light on top of this. So that's all I'm going to do now. Just start to refine the colours. Sometimes drawing them in smaller squares if it's quite distinct on the reference, because this is really the area that shows that those domes are made up of all these different tiles. Right, let's go in with some nice darks. So sharpened up the pencil quite well because I want a nicely defined edge. And some of these middle tiles, as you can see, are very dark. A little bit of that colour underneath still showing through. I'm creating those nice crisp points to the tiles. Over here you've gone more to the dark brown. So all I'm really going to do now is start to, well, basically add a bit of refinement to these tiles. Darker here and there, lighter in other areas. Not getting too caught up with the details. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. That's pretty good. That's okay. I'm happy now that I can get the golden effect. When you're doing gold or silver, it's really about what's reflecting into that surface. It's not really a colour that you're putting on there. You're really looking at those reflections and the highlights. I've got a nice sharp pencil there. I've just got a new sharpener. I buy my swordfish sharpeners about every 3 to 4 months or so. I usually buy them 2 or 3 at a time, and then if I need to get something really sharp like this on my harder pencils, so I wouldn't be doing it for Caran d'Ache, but I'd be using it mainly with the pit pencils that's harder, I know I can get a nice sharp point to it without getting lots of pencils snapping. When the sharpeners start to get a bit blunt, that's when you start to get the ends snapping more frequently. So as you can see, I'm just putting a few of these lines in. I'm not putting all of them in, just giving the impression of these tiles. If you're looking for even more great art sources, I've really got you covered. First off, I've got a Patreon channel that's been going well over a year or so, packed with around about 50 or more videos and new ones every month. Lots of the videos are many hours long, so you can see they're really in-depth. Subjects such as turtles, birds, elephants, big cats, you name it, is on there. So that's my Patreon channel. And also on that Patreon channel, before I go on to something else, I've got a secret Facebook group. So only the members are actually on there. It's the most supportive and friendly Facebook group that I've ever seen. I know I'm biased, but it really is. We've got 400 or 500 members on there, and they all help each other. So that's a great added bonus. That comes free with it. Also, you get line art every month as well. And we've just designed a brand new companion website for it. So if you've joined other Patrons and channels and you found it very difficult to navigate around, we got this free website that comes with it. All the videos are now just a single click away. It couldn't be any easier than it is. I've also got my site, jasonmorgan.co.uk, lots of tutorial videos, DVD discs and downloads on there. And if you're struggling for reference photos for your art projects, I've got some of those too. I've got 900 plus on my website, wildlifeart-online.com, and they will be copyright free for you, so you can paint and draw from them and sell your work with no copyright worries whatsoever. So hope you like those extra resources, and I'll see you all again real soon.